Righty, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Federal and State Affairs. We just have one item on the agenda, and that is Working Senate Bill 322. And it's my understanding that the two parties have come to some sort of an understanding on this. And I'm not sure if we've got, I don't know if Bradley or Whitney would like to speak to the committee real fast before we work on this to find out. We can come arm in arm. There we go. Okay, okay.
I'm Whitney Dameron. I represent Kansas Entertainment. We opposed the bill when you had hearings. We traded a lot of paper and a lot of language following the hearing. And between the 4 casino managers, governor's office, and the tribe, there were not less than 10 attorneys involved trying to write things a paragraph at a time. And in the end, I think Indian Gaming Regulatory Act is a bit subjective. There are a lot of opinions on what it means and what you can and cannot do, but you really don't know until it's subject to litigation and you get a final decision. And so for that reason, our client got to looking at it and just decided, you know what, the original bill is probably more acceptable than everything we were trading back and forth. So we went to Brad and his client in the governor's office and talked to the other 3 casinos and said, our position is we're going to accept the bill the way it was drafted if people are willing to get back to that. So that's what we've done.
Okay. Brad, if you'd like to speak to.
I would, Mr. Chairman. Brad Smith, representing the Prairie Band, Potawatomi Nation. As always, Whitney did a great job of summarizing the situation. The only way you could shorten it is to say that there were so many lawyers involved that we didn't get anywhere. So it all ends up kind of back where we started. In any event, we very much appreciate all the time and effort that everyone spent trying to find common ground. It looks like we found it. So thank you to the committee for giving us the time to do that.
Committee, do you have any questions? Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm still very confused. What exactly, I guess you crossed out B, okay, and so I can understand it. What does that do, and how does that affect as far as money going towards the state or anything like that? Can someone kind of help explain that to me? Thank you.
A lot of content in that question, and Whitney may want to comment on that. That particular provision that's being stricken was a barrier to us even negotiating anything with the state of Kansas because it forbid the internet wagering. And so in light of the requirements of federal law, we think we need to get that out of the way so that we can negotiate a compact that will deal with internet wagering as well as wagering on the casinos. Don't know what fiscal impact it will have on the state of Kansas. There won't be any revenue sharing under federal law if it's done under the compact. That's not permitted by federal law because we have the state competes, and so they generate it that way. But so we can't do revenue sharing with the state.
And this would be a negotiation, basically. I mean, would there be geofencing involved in that negotiation with regard to the gaming on the tribal lands?
Yes, all the tribes will be geofenced from each other, and Whitney can talk about geofencing among the casinos.
Yeah, I would say, you know, this gray area I spoke about, there is federal litigation. Seminole Tribe out of Florida is the one that's talked about the most as to whether you can conduct sports wagering off the tribal reservation. I think that's a question probably yet to be determined. Our state constitution requires gaming to be state-owned and operated. Obviously, the tribes are sovereign nations, so what they do on reservation is what is negotiated through a compact. So I think the Joint Committee on State Tribal Relations will see a compact at some point in time that will talk about the parameters of gaming either on the reservation or through a mobile app like the casinos. The question will be determined, and obviously let Brad and the tribe speak for that. Is it legal for them to offer statewide sports wagering as the casinos do under existing state and federal law? The question becomes, when you're on your phone and you make a sports bet, is that wager placed right here, or is it placed where the servers are at? Servers being on the reservation, servers being at a state-owned and operated casino. So that is a question that has not been determined with any finality in federal law. My partner,
Gotta get
John
that door
Lottenberg.
fixed, I think.
So, and I think those are the kinds of things that the tribe and the state will be discussing when they do a compact.
Basically, all we're doing is authorizing the negotiation to begin.
Pretty much, I think
Okay.
that's what this bill accomplishes, yes.
Any other questions? Senator Straub?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How exactly is this operating in other states like this that have tribal lands, or?
Well, that is the question. And you know, most of the country is looking at that Seminole case where the governor of Florida entered into an agreement with the Seminole tribe to allow them to essentially have sports wagering statewide. That was challenged by some gaming interests in Florida. The gaming interest won that case at the federal district court level. It's been appealed up to Washington, D.C. Circuit. And so that case could make it to the Supreme Court, and that could be the one that determines whether the tribe can engage in essentially off-reservation sports wagering. And so I think that's still a gray area.
So will this just muddy the water in Kansas in the meantime?
I don't believe so. I don't believe states are stopping what they're doing based upon the Seminole tribe. That case could take years, quite frankly.
Any other questions, committee? Senator Fausto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So then, as the chairman said, this legislation is just allowing the negotiation to take place, and then just clearly state again the option that the Indian tribes would want to have. And then, Mr. Chairman, since Will Lawrence walked in, Mr. Chairman, can I have him comment? Will Lawrence.
Better than me, I'm sure.
I will be happy to comment on this, I'm certain.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Will Lawrence, Governor Kelly's Chief of Staff. So I think, as I said before, this just allows us to have the conversation. We'll address a number of these issues in the compact. And I think in some other states, it's all kind of unique. Some states don't operate the way we do, where we own the casinos, and per the Constitution, it has to go through them if it's not on reservation. So like in Michigan, I think they just authorize the tribes to operate with the license, but they own the license. We have to own the operation for it to go through the lottery to be constitutional. So that's where this gets a little more complicated than other states, which is why we're trying to deal with this language in a little bit different way. But it's all going to come down to federal law, and I think we can address those questions in the compact so everyone is comfortable with it. And if we had to make more changes, that'll have to be done through negotiations in a compact. That's the goal.
Senator Straub?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what is the urgency at this point to allow this?
The urgency at this point is that we have been working on this for approximately 7 months. Prairie Band cannot operate until there's been an agreement on the compact. And so that's been holding this up. And at a certain point, you know, as it says in Civil 84 and under federal law, we have a duty to negotiate in good faith. And with the changes happening at the federal level, you know, we have some concerns that if we wait, we also lose the ability to control some of what happens in Kansas through these conversations. So this allows us to move forward now, have these conversations, be good partners, and get it all dealt with, and not be subject to unknowns that will come down the road if we're sitting here with an open compact negotiation in a year from now.
Any other questions, committee? Thank you, Will. Appreciate that very much. With that, if there's no, We got to call somebody about that door, that thing. Would the committee like to vote on the door? If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion on this bill. Senator Longvine?
Chairman, I move that we pass out Senate Bill 322 favorably for passage.
Senator Longvine makes a motion to pass out 322 favorably for passage. Do I have a second? Second by Senator Blasey. Oh,
Not a second, but a substitute motion.
substitute motion?
I have an amendment, Mr. Chairman. If
Okay.
Jason would be willing to pass it out, please.
Okay. Would you like to explain or have Jason explain it, Senator?
I will try to explain it, and Jason can just fill in the holes. But under current law, the total amount wagered on historical horse race machines are subject to the parimutuel tax of a rate of 3%. This was put in last year's gaming bill. And all this bill does, which is currently Senate Bill 293, which would be amended into this bill, this would appropriate that 3% tax if if horse race machines were ever allowed in Kansas, if and when. I know there's litigation going on. But if it was to ever happen, a third of that amount would be appropriated to the Kansas Horse Breeding Development Fund, and 2/3 of that amount would be appropriated to the Horse Fair Racing Benefit Fund. All it does, so currently there's no funds in the pool, but this would just, in the event that those machines are allowed, this would just bring clarity to the appropriation. Thank you.
Okay. Committee, any questions? Senator Falscadeau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you say if, because I know that there's some talk about the machines to allow horse racing, so is that all you're talking about, or are you talking about live racing as well?
Mr. Chairman, the revisor might be able to help answer that, but my understanding is there's some still litigation going through on the horse racing machines. If those machines would be allowed here in the state of Kansas or in Sedgwick County, in our home county, Senator, this would just allow that tax to be collected on the event those machines are allowed, and then this amendment determines where that money is appropriated.
Senator Holscher? Oh. Okay. Senator Holscher?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I appreciate this amendment and some of the provisions that are in it. I feel like this needs a separate discussion from what we have here. And we have parties who have worked together to draw a compromise on the original bill. So I would prefer that we save this conversation in regard to 293 for another day.
Any further discussion? So we're on the Senator Peterson.
Mr. Chairman, no, this has no impact on any of the funds going to the Problem Gambling and Addictions Fund.
So we have Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also think we got to keep the bill clean, and I'm going to be opposing this amendment.
Okay. Any further discussion? Is there a second on the substitute motion? Second by Senator Peterson. We have a motion by substitute motion by Senator Blasey to amend Senate Bill 322, second by Senator Peterson. Any further discussion? Senator Falscadeau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So where would you insert this language in the current bill? How does it relate? I mean,
We'll turn to Jason for that.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 293 is just one section amending KSA 74-8823. That section would be inserted in Senate Bill 322 following line 18 as a second amendatory section in the bill, and then the title would be amended appropriately to reflect the subject matter.
It would be a new section 2, essentially. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's probably the best idea. Okay, yes, Chase, Senator Blasey.
I just wanted to respond to the comments from the senators from Johnson and Meade. I appreciate their comments. However, I believe this amendment is really a few sentences, and it's just an appropriation in the event that horse racing machines were allowed in Kansas. That's what this amendment does. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion by Senator Blasey, a second by Senator Peterson. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Gosh, can't tell. Let me, all those in favor, raise their right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed, no. Okay, the motion carries. So we're back on the bill, I believe, or do we have a, back on the bill? So now we'd entertain a motion on Senate Bill 322 as amended to, okay. Entertain a motion to pass out Senate Bill 322.
Sure, why not? No one else wants to do it?
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we pass out Senate Bill 3. Well, actually, did you want to put it in a House bill?
Oh, yeah, I think we probably do. So the motion on that would be to place the contents of Senate Bill 322 as amended into House Bill 2058.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take the contents of Senate Bill 322 as amended and place them in House Bill 2058.
Okay. Do I have a second on that? Second by Senator Longvine. Any discussion? Senator Fasquedo.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Jason, so how does this amendment affect the original language of the bill, just allowing that conversation, negotiation?
The amendment that was added on motion of Senator Blasey to add Senate Bill 293 has no impact on the underlying provisions of Senate Bill 322.
So it would still authorize a negotiation to begin basically on the compact, yes. As long as it passes. That's correct. Any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second. I believe we have a second, correct? Senator Blasey, second by Senator Longvine. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. So that carries, and I believe that is all our work for today. Thank you, committee. I appreciate it very much. What's it? Pass out favorably, yes. Yeah. 2058. Senate substitute for House Bill 2058. That passed out favorably, head to the floor. So.